Welcome everyone to another deck spotlight with the Shiv. I am the Shiv. Alright, so today we're going to actually be taking a look at one of my own creations here. I'm very happy about this. It's a really nice deck that I made for a friend who was having difficulties with the daily. And then once I gave him this deck, he came back 20 minutes later, said, "Hey, I'm done." I was like, "Oh, it must have been the win 2. And it turns out it was the win 5. And he did it all in 20 minutes. So we came back and started taking a look at what exactly we had put together here. And we saw some really interesting combinations and things that were working in ways we didn't perceive them initially, mostly Nerubian Egg. Um, and we got a lot of great value out of it. And people didn't know what to freaking do about this deck. It's kind of interesting. As you can tell, the deck has a very similar structure to the Naxxadin and Endurance Naxxadin deck, which is basically the same deck, just with a couple more Divine Shields. Anywho, so we took a look at it. We started stripping a couple things that we didn't think were very useful in it, and it ended up working really well. I've had a chance to face off against some of the major meta on ladder as well as an unranked, and it was able to handle pretty much everything we threw at it with a little bit of difficulty here or there, but it handled itself very nicely. I did not find myself wanting all that much, and I'm really happy to see that this deck can go toe-to-toe with some of the more expensive decks and just handle itself. So let's get to the card breakdown and the strategies in the Mulligan. Alright, so we'll start with strategy first. The strategy of this deck is to early game set a very aggressive pace. You're going to want to force your opponents to trade with you rather than you trading with them every step of the way. Cards such as Leopard Gnome are going to give you great value because of this. Worgen Infiltrator, another card that'll give you great value because of this. Fairy Dragon, most of the time they're going to have to trade with this or waste an AoE. They're less likely to use an AoE because of Nerubian Egg. We'll cover all of that here in a little bit. So you're going to want to put that pressure on, use spells and temporary buffs from minions to just really push past what they're comfortable with and force them into a reactionary play mode rather than I'm going to play my deck in the steps that I know how to play it and thus get the effect that I want to get, which generally is winning. So by forcing them out of their comfort zone and forcing them to play reactionary, you take the advantage and you push it down their throat every step of the way. Even if they start taunting up, you can trade a little bit here and there. We have the ability to deal with this. Alright? It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so let's break down the cards here. Blessing of Might. Great card. Can provide some instantaneous trade value. But mostly you're going to want to use this to really hammer in the point, especially as a finale or finisher combo. In pinch, you can use it with the Nerubian Egg or any other minion here, really. I prefer Leroy for obvious reasons, because, you know, adding salt to the wound is fun. So you could really get just so much out of this. With Nerubian Egg, putting that on there, boom, you're going to be able to take out some pretty decent sized minions and also force the egg to hatch. Alright, Abusive Sergeant. Temporary buff, normally used for trading purposes, in all honesty, but great for getting that early game damage. Using Abusive Sergeant on a Leopard Gnome, that's 4 damage you're getting off the Leopard Gnome, plus 2 more from him when he dies. So, yeah, your turn 1 play just became 6 damage. That's great. Argent Squire. This is kind of a leftover from the Naxxadin deck, in all honesty. I really did not want to keep this in any way, shape, or form, but Argent Squires just have so much value in an aggressive deck because even if you try to kill it, it's going to require more than just one simple solution, and I like that. Um, or they just ignore it, which I love it when they ignore this guy. Because then it allows me to throw, say, a Blessing of Kings on it, and it becomes a 5/5 with a Divine Shield. Yeah, nobody likes that at all. Okay, so Leper Gnome. Hi, I'm Leper Gnome. I hit you, you hit me. I go boom. I still hit you. It's just as simple as that. His Death Rattle allows for a great amount of damage in your early game. Plus, he's only 1 mana, so he can cycle very easily the Knife Juggler. Okay, Worgen Infiltrator. Another great opening card. In Mulligans, this is actually one of the best cards you can get because it's so hard to deal with it. You can't use a spell on him because you can't see him. Can't run a minion in him because you can't see him. Which means when you can attack with him, Blessing of Might, hey, 5 damage. Abusive Sergeant, hey, 4 damage. You get the picture. You're being extremely aggressive with this guy. Alright. Fairy Dragon. I love Fairy Dragons. I've always loved Fairy Dragons. It's just one of those cards that pisses people off. Oh, I can't Frostbolt it. Oh, I can't do this to it. Darn. The downside here is things like Arcane Missiles can kill this. Mad Bomber can kill this. So you're really going to have that issue. Plus, most AoEs do 2 damage, and that will totally wreck Fairy Dragon. But for the most part, they're going to have to trade minion into it in order for them to deal with it. And that's good. As long as you get to attack with this thing and then they trade into it, it's gotten its value. Alright, Knife Juggler. We have so many low drops in this deck that not having a Knife Juggler is almost criminal. So yeah, he's in here because of that. Alright, Nerubian Egg. This is the only Nax card that we put in the deck, and I was actually surprised at how well this card is doing. It's funny, when we were testing this card on Cockatrice, it was doing nowhere near as well. And we couldn't figure out why. We thought, you know, hey, it could have some value, and I kept saying in Paladin it might do something, but in Cockatrice testing, we never could get anywhere near the value that I've been seeing it getting throughout like the meta of Hearthstone. It really is just great. It stops a lot of AoEs and it makes people overthink their plays, and I love that. Plus, if you can draw a silence out with this guy, that means anything that you Blessing of King is going to be just a little bit more safer. Alright, so I like that about that. Sword of Justice. Initially, this was not in the deck. If I remember correctly, I had a Defender of Argus in this slot, which is also a really good play to have. But I started looking at it that Defender of Argus is a one-time use, alright? And you have no way of bouncing it back unless you're playing against a Hunter and he's got freezing traps, so... But I wanted something that could give me a little bit more value, you know, because we got so many low drops. If I wanted to, like, just unload my hand and just get them all out there, get some super buffs on it, that would be great. Plus, I didn't want to have to depend on just the Abusive Sergeant and the Blessing of Might to activate or make my Nerubian Eggs viable for a trade purpose to summon out the 4/4. So, Sword of Justice became a really good option for that. And it's been working out really good. The downside here is with a Nerubian Egg, it turns it into a 1/3. This might make simple trading a little bit more difficult in order to pop it into a 4/4, but not impossible. Okay, Divine Favor. Paladins need card draw. They've got basically 2 gimmicks for card draw, one of which is Divine Favor, and the other one is Hammer of Wrath. Yes, Holy Wrath does technically draw you a card, but that's 5 freaking mana. Give me a break, people. Alright. Divine Favor's greatest ability, especially in this deck, is it allows Paladin players to play extremely aggressive. Just oh, wait, I'm running out of steam. Divine Favor, no, I'm not. Against handlock decks, Priest, Druids, you get a great amount of just pure carnage from that. Alright? Because you're able to sustain that level of aggressiveness and just putting out those minions, and then just reloading your hand, it's literally like, oh, I'm out of ammo. Here, I've got another clip. Just that simple. All right? It will keep you going and going and going. Divine Favor is the Energizer Bunny of the Paladin deck. All right, True Silver Champion. Initially, and this is actually kind of funny to admit, when I made this deck, it didn't have a single True Silver Champion in it. I'd overlooked it. Don't ask me how. And the funny thing is, we were winning without having it in there. But I started discovering that things such as Azure Drake and blown or popped Nerubine eggs were kind of becoming an issue. So True Silver Champion kind of fits in taking care of that very nicely. Plus, if you have it equipped as you're going to look for a burst combo finish, this adds 4 more damage. You can't argue that at all. Next up, we've got the Blessing of Kings. Blessing of Kings, what can I say about this card? It's really awesome. You can use it with pretty much all your low drops, turn them into instant, mid-game, late-game threats. Just that awesome. You can use it with Leroy Jenkins and really have fun times. All right, Consecration. It might seem odd for a deck that doesn't really give a damn about trading all that much to have something that wipes the board. The reason why we don't care that much about trading is because we run Consecration. This does damage to their face, hurts their minions, and allows us, if we have to do a trade, to be a little bit more effective in that. You'll also notice there's no equality in this deck because everybody knows equality is in every single Paladin deck. But if I make them think that I have equality and I actually don't, that gives me a little bit more space for offensive potential. And this deck is all about offensive potential. Alright, Hammer of Wrath. 3 damage, draw a card. 4 mana is a little absorbent for this, in all honesty. I'm surprised it's 4. It really should be 3. But if we haven't learned this yet, anything that's worth a damn in Paladin is generally in that 4 mana slot. So, yay, logic. Leroy Jenkins! Because you absolutely must fuck some shit up. No, seriously, that's why he's here. You're going to use this guy primarily as a finisher. In pinch situations, like dealing with a gigantic taunt. Ironbark Protector, Ancient of War. Yeah, sure. I could see that. I could really see that. Throwing an Abusive Sergeant, boom, takes out pretty much most of that. You'll need 2 Abusive Sergeants to handle the 5/10 though, or secondary trade. But yeah, you're going to want to use this guy mostly for finishing. Alright? And the reason why is because he has no sustainability, people. Seriously. He comes with a built-in kill switch with those 2 whelps. Alright? But because of his low cost, Blessing of Might becomes a reality. Blessing of Kings, also a little late game, but it's a reality. You could actually double Blessing of Might and Abusive Sergeant this guy. That's 14 damage right there. That's not even including if you have the True Silver Champion. Alright? And you can get that out turn 7. Druids can't even do that, alright? So that's really nice. Really nice. And it just boggles the mind why they haven't nerfed this card yet. Alright, next up, Avenging Wrath. This card, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure about having it in because the likelihood of you having your enemy's board cleared to where you could get 8 damage straight to the face is kind of eh. But what I discovered, on the other hand, is because you're applying constant pressure to your enemy and they're always trading, the likelihood of them actually clearing the board for you is really strong. So the Avenging Wrath comes out, turn 6, boom, that's 8 more damage to the face. Yeah, you cleared my board, but I'm still doing another 8 damage to your face. Again, more damage, bringing them down, knocking them down. It's a great thing. Now, you might think having 2 Avenging Wraths is a little OP. No. Consistency. I know this is a word we don't generally hear in Paladin all that much, but trust me, Consistency is important here. So having two, much better than having one. All right. Okay, so we've covered strategy. We did the card breakdown. Now let's talk about mulligans. But this is really important because mulligans can make or break pretty much any deck. So what are you going to want here? Against every class I played against, I started realizing that one of the best cards to have in a mulligan was the Nerubian Egg. And here's why. Most people don't grab their silences for openings, with the exception of Shaman. All right, they generally don't do that. It's like, oh, I don't want the Iron Beak. Oh, no, I don't want that. All right, so they want to go for something else. So if you can coin this out, you don't have to worry about a silence initially. Now, your turn 2. Hey, look at that. Abusive Sergeant. Bam! Into whatever he summoned. Oh, great. Nerubian Egg just became a 4/4 on turn 2. That's why you want that in your opening hand. If you don't have the coin, this isn't bad to have, but still, if you got the coin, you're always going to want the Nerubian Egg. Other cards you're really going to want is pretty much anything that is below 2 mana. So, from Nerubian Egg to Blessing of Might. Blessing of Might, less so. Abusive Sergeant, definitely. But all these other ones, yeah, definitely. Now, there's an argument to say for Sword of Justice. And the argument is this. If you have the coin, you get this out on turn 2. That means your turn 3 play can easily be Knife Juggler to an Argent Squire and get tremendous value out of it. The downside to this is because you're a Paladin, your opponent might actually consider having an Acidic Swamp Ooze. So losing your Sword of Justice immediately after it comes out really, really, really is crushing. And then you're really dependent on Blessing of Might, Abusive Sergeant to unlock your egg. So be wary of that. Another argument for 3-drop is for Divine Favor. This way you know you have it. That allows you to play everything extremely aggressive and then pop. So yeah, there's an argument for that. But in general, always your low drops. Never your True Silver, your Blessings, your Consecrations, your Hammer of Wrath. Hammer of Wrath sometimes is actually good to have, especially when you need it turn 4, but keeping it in an opening hand, less so. Leroy Jenkins, definitely don't want that in the opening. Avenging Wrath, especially don't want that in the opening. So almost everything you're going to play against, you're going to want that for your opening. Now, this deck went toe-to-toe with Miracle. It killed it. The reason why it killed Miracle is Miracle could just not keep up with the damage output that it was doing. Worgen Infiltrators hitting it for absurd amounts. Fairy Dragon. My god, Fairy Dragon, that rogue couldn't do jack about. Nerubian Egg. Oh yeah. Rogues hate Nerubian Egg. I'm going to tell you that right now. You put the Nerubian Egg out, they ain't blade for shit. Alright? That's good. Against Hunters. Hunters hate the Nerubian Egg as well because it means their greatest asset for dealing with aggro, Explosive Trap, is now their death nail. And I love Hunter too, so just keep that in mind. Alright, against Warrior, you're just constantly going aggressive on them. Nothing that they can really do. Yeah, they're going to try to trade. They're going to try to get armor back. But you can actually power over their armor and pretty much negate Shield Slam's ability very nicely. Druids. Druid is actually really difficult in some cases because Druids have taunts, like Druid of the Claw. And they have Keeper of the Grove. But you can beat them. The one thing I will tell you to be wary of is Keeper of the Grove getting played early using Innervates because of your Nerubian Egg. This does happen because Druids are scared of the Nerubian Egg. So that's going to happen. Don't flip out. It's okay. Because if they're using that silence on your Nerubian Egg, that means they're not going to have it for anything you put Blessing of Kings on later. That's good. Alright, Handlock. Handlock is a really interesting fight because because of the way handlock works, having a divine favor in your opening hand is a great thing because it allows you to build your board, toss that out, refill up your hand. So if he does get a giant out, oh yeah, he can do some simple trades to get rid of that thing. I was clearing giants with Avenging Wrath in one trade. It was great. But you're going to want to try to hover them around 15 life so they can't do anything all that spectacular until you can get a combination to kill them. Generally, this is probably going to involve Leroy Jenkins or a Blessing of Kings and having a weapon on hand. But yeah, you can crush them before they ever reach their power curve. I dealt with 3 giants coming out of 1 handlock, and I still kicked his ass. So, good times. Alright, Zoo. Everybody wants to know, how's this handle against Zoo? Surprisingly well. For some odd reason, as Zoo adopted Nerubian Eggs and Haunted Creeper, they got rid of Shield Bearers. Okay, thank you. So now I don't have to worry about Zoo stuff all that much. I'm just going to their face. Because they're still running Flame Imps, they're always going to be at a negative damage advantage. Because they're still tapping to draw cards, they're at a negative damage advantage. So I don't have that issue. I can just keep piling it through it. I've beaten a few Zoos before they even got to turn 5. That was great. But the one issue you're probably going to get is with the Doomguard. Okay, so how do you deal with Doomguard? Not easily. I'm not going to lie. Basically, you're going to have to use probably a Blessing of King on a minion to just knock the crap out of it, and then follow it up with probably a second trade. So you're forced to trade 2 for 1 there. And that does really suck. Most of the time, though, the Zoo player will do that first trade for you. So really, you're only having to trade 1 minion on your turn. Alright. So, but against Zoo, highly recommend the Nerubian Egg. It's so disgusting. They have very difficult ways of popping it themselves, unlike a Paladin. And because of this, those pseudo-clever Zoo players who've been trying to run Shadow Flames and Hellfires are not going to be able to get any value out of it. Yeah, suck it. And yeah, if this gets popped and they have a Doomguard in their hand, this will be the first target they're going to hit with that Doomguard. Because that 4/4, no, they're not going to want that. And then that leaves Doomguard with 3 life. Yeah, do I have anything here that could do 3 damage? Yeah, you do. So, not really worried too much about the Doomguard. The Soulfires, those are going to hurt them more than anything else, to be honest with you. Just play your game, keep it completely aggressive. True Silver Champion to get rid of things that might pose a threat, but not much really in that deck will. So take that in the face to add more damage and regen some life. You know, something they wish they could do. And you should be fine. You really should be. Mages. Mages are going to be a little bit difficult for you, but not impossible. You can still kill them. Mages, you're going to want to be extremely aggressive because as they get to the mid-game, they're going to try locking down the board, and then they're going to try, you know, holding you off using ice blocks. I was able to actually beat a mage with this deck who got both ice blocks off, simply due to the fact that I had 2 Avenging Wraths. I used the first one to bring him down into where it popped the first ice block, and then he played the next one the next turn, and then froze my board. Okay. I then equipped Sword of Justice, attack to the face, popped that ice block. Then he got me down. He thought he might be able to win because he froze my board again. Avenging Wrath for the win. It was just that simple. You're just extremely aggressive. Other times, though, I've had difficulty with mages. They were able to just burn me before I could burn them. And that's always the chance you're going to run with this deck. So, anyway, if you like this video and the information in the deck, thank you very much. There will be a link to the Hearthpwn for more description on it. Thank you, everybody, for all your concern and your messages. And yes, I am very happy that I'm in remission. I really do appreciate everybody's support. It's really helped me through the whole process of going through treatment and everything like that. So I really do appreciate it. Hair is growing back soon. This hat will not be here. Bandana, maybe. So, this is the Shiv saying thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.